Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high-performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Before we dive into today's episode, let me share something that I found super helpful lately, because I think it could be really helpful to you too. If you've ever gone through a rough patch in your life, you probably know that those are the moments in your life when your familiar systems break down and the things that used to work for you often just stop working. Now raise your hand if you've experienced a situation like this. Well, you can't see me, but I'm definitely raising my hand. So far, this year has been a real challenge for me on so many levels, mentally, emotionally, physically. And it required me to get out of my comfort zone to test new strategies to stay happy, healthy, and productive. As you probably know, there are two main things driving your overall everyday experience, and that's your physiology and your psychology. And what I've seen happening a lot is that people who are going through a stressful time, they're often focusing on only one of those two pillars and are wondering why things don't improve. Well, the thing is, it's always a two-way communication between those two systems. If you neglect one, the other will suffer too. So whether you're going through a rough patch or whether you're looking to optimize your performance and experience in general, always make sure you're working on your mind and your body simultaneously. And I don't know about you, but I'm an optimizer for sure, and I always look for simple solutions that give me the most bang for my buck. For instance, stress can deplete magnesium levels in the body, and inadequate magnesium can in turn exacerbate stress and its effects. And you simply cannot meditate your way out of a magnesium deficiency. An effective way to help you get out of that negative spiral would be to supplement with magnesium to help your body regulate the deficiency and to integrate meditation or mindfulness to help your nervous system calm down again so that it can get out of that fight or flight mode again. Make sense? Not all forms of magnesium are equal or equally bioavailable though. To make things even more tricky, different forms of magnesium are also absorbed by different tissues in your body. So you have to make sure to get the right amount of the right forms of magnesium that support your overall health goals. And you don't want any unnecessary additives, fillers, and artificial ingredients. And that's why I love BiOptimizer's Magnesium Breakthrough. BiOptimizer's Magnesium Breakthrough contains the full spectrum of all 7 forms of the most bioavailable magnesium, each with its own unique benefits, along with vitamin B6 to support mental health and promote a healthy stress response. The combination of those different forms of magnesium help you support a lot of different systems all at once. Did you know that magnesium is involved in over 300 biochemical reactions in the body? Yep, you heard that right. From energy production to muscle function, digestion, heart health, sleep, and even mood and cognitive function. Magnesium plays a crucial role in keeping us ticking. I'm taking 2 capsules in the morning and sometimes another one in the evening before bed if it's been a particularly stressful day and I need to help my body calm down and relax, and it really makes a difference. But we all have to run our own experiments to see what works best for us. So why don't you give this a try to see what it can do for you? This could be the one tiny change in your routine that improves your sleep, metabolic health, cognition, energy, and performance all simultaneously to help you be your best. If for some reason you try Magnesium Breakthrough and it just doesn't work for you, you can get a full refund, no questions asked. BiOptimizers are so confident they offer you a 365-day money-back guarantee. If you'd like to test BiOptimizers Magnesium Breakthrough risk-free, head to bioptimizers.com/Claudia and use Claudia10 at checkout for a 10% discount on your order. Again, that's bioptimizers.com/Claudia and code Claudia10 to claim your 10% discount. And if you subscribe, not only will you get more discounts and free gifts, you will make sure your monthly supply is guaranteed. Without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. And my very interesting guest today is serial entrepreneur and longevity enthusiast Gabriel Cian, who spent the first 40 years of his life getting reasonably wealthy and now spends the next 40 years defeating aging. So he has dedicated his life to defeating aging by 2060. So, how's that for a moonshot mission? Welcome, Gabriel, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk today.
Yes, hello, Claudia. Thank you very much for the invitation. So, what can I say? I really thought of my life as a very long-term project, and I always wanted to spend half of it get into financial independence, and then having the necessary situation and the foundation to take care of projects that I care more about. But it was necessary to again be able to devote my time to long-term projects and to be financially independent. So
That's so interesting. And I'm super curious because wealth is defined differently by everyone, right? So I'm curious, what does reasonably wealthy mean for you? Are we talking millions, dozens of millions, hundreds of millions? What does wealth mean to you?
yeah, so I'm not going to give numbers because I don't think they are so important. But what I'm going to tell you is my story about how I came to this conclusion and to the numbers I needed in order to consider myself as financially independent.
Mm-hmm.
So by 2018, like 6 years ago, my startup. I mean, I have created several startups, and they have all been profitable. But the last startup was more successful than the others. And before getting acquired, it was already very profitable. And my business partner and myself, we had access to wealth, so to say. And at first, it was really exciting. But then I've noticed that there were many things that I imagined as like the definition of happiness, and
Mm-hmm.
finally, they didn't bring that much value to me. For example, I had a Tesla Model S for 4 years. It was like the dream of my life to have such a car. And when I had it, I had fun with it for a couple of months, let's say a year or so. And then it started consistent. It started being more and more of a burden on my shoulders. So I finally sold it and I bought another car that is great. I don't have any problems. My kids can get dirty into the car. There's not a problem, and it's much better for me. And I'm happier with my new car, which is a like Peugeot 5008. I don't know if people know what this is about. But it's like an average car, and it's great for me. And same for the house. So I, most of people think that like the richer you are, the biggest the house should be. But finally, a big house means a lot of problems. You need to repair lots of stuff all the time. A swimming pool is the definition of luxury, but a swimming pool, you need to maintain it. You need to take care of it. There is a lot of products. It's a mess if you really want to take care of this like on a daily basis. And so there were different aspects of my life that I just understood that they didn't have that much value. What I imagined before wasn't exactly the reality. So I ended up understanding that I had a certain standard of living, which each one of us can define. And again, if some people really want a big swimming pool and a big house, that's fine for them if they agree to also sort of pay the price, not only financially, but also in terms of bandwidth and time you have to devote to it. That's fine. For me, it doesn't bring any value. So I gave up all this kind of luxury conditions and a property, etc. And I just defined what was reasonable for me. And surprisingly enough, it's less than I would have expected for myself, at least.
Would you mind giving a number? Like, how much money do you need to be happy or to live the life
Well,
that you want to live?
yeah, sure. So in terms of yearly revenue, it amounts to roughly 100,000, 150,000 per year.
Mm-hmm.
I live in one of the most beautiful places on earth. Is south of France. It's a small city called Aix-en-Provence.
Oh,
It's
nice.
great. I wouldn't change. I've been to different exotic destinations like Mauritius or other destinations, and every time when I got back, I said, "Okay, it was great out there, but here it's also great. So there is no reason to move." So yeah, this is my life right now, and I'm really happy with it. So I can devote my time to what really matters to me, my family, my work, my lifetime project now, which is longevity, um, going out with friends, practicing physical activity. That's the kind of things that really matter to me. And of
Mm.
course they change over time, year over year. So there's a constant and a regular analysis of what's changing, what used to have value and doesn't have anymore, and what are the new things I should devote my time to.
That's such an important thing you just mentioned, that you constantly have to update what's important in your life,
It
because
is.
otherwise you kind of stay stuck with your childhood list of dreams and you don't really move forward and you don't really adapt to the changing environment and the changing you, right?
Absolutely. Life changes and you need to keep yourself updated, just like a computer needs new versions of
Exactly. Yes.
software.
Now, staying with the wealth aspect for a moment, what are the most important lessons that you have learned about entrepreneurship during those first 40 years of your life?
Yeah, boy, it was hard. It was very hard, and it's not for everyone. Um, I had such a huge need of independence and taking care of myself and learning stuff by myself, that any employee job would not have been appropriate for me. So I knew that it was hard coded in my DNA, and I was able to bear any conditions just to be independent and to take care of my own life. And again, it's something that either you have, either you don't. And I don't think everyone should be an entrepreneur or anyone would be happy being an entrepreneur. So there's a lot of personal development and personal questions you need to ask yourself before you start creating your company and choose this kind of life. Now, if you choose it and if you think long term and you're able to be persistent and have the grit to be there and take all the challenges until you become successful, this is a very fulfilling life indeed. But when I started my first company, I was 22, and I was in at the university, and then my friends started having all sorts of fancy jobs, fancy cars, fancy houses, fancy holidays, and I was living in a 33 square meter apartment close to a prison in Paris, which was not the best place to be. And it was, on the one hand, it was hard for me to see my friends moving forward, and apparently me being stuck in this situation. But the progress for an employee is sort of linear, but the
Mhm.
progress of an entrepreneur is exponential in the best case scenario, because you could also be at zero and stay at zero forever if it's not your destiny. But um, but even in the best case scenario, you're at first you're going to have hard times, and eventually afterwards you're going to go higher and higher, and eventually get to the same level as other people, and then go above them. But you still need to be self-confident and to trust in yourself and to see long term and to be able to bear a lot of very difficult conditions for a long time.
Where do you think your need for independence comes from? And how did you build the resilience to stay the course even during those hard times?
Yeah, well, I think it comes from my father, who was very hard on me when it came to studies, and he was very demanding and sort of telling me that I wasn't good enough and I wouldn't make it. And I sort of built myself on that kind of confrontation and showing him, proving him that I was able to succeed.
Hmm.
And it worked pretty well for me while I was a kid. And then I had this kind of a mechanism in place which allowed me to apply the same mechanism to other situations. And as a matter of fact, in at the university at that time, like 25 years ago, there were very few entrepreneurs. It was considered as strange, as um, not a normal way of starting your career. And everyone told me, "What are you doing? You're not going to make it. It doesn't make sense." And I found myself in a similar situation, just as the one I had as a kid, when my dad told me that I wasn't good enough and I wouldn't make it. And my energy came from that kind of situation and mechanism,
That's
I
so
guess.
interesting.
And then when you do it once and it works twice, three times, and so on, then it becomes a sort of magic recipe for life. And I have applied it over and over and over again, and it worked. So every time you do it again and it works, it sort of confirms that you have to continue that path.
So, do you need to surround yourself with people who are negative and who are talking down to you?
Well, to be honest, no, right now. So that's very interesting. That's very interesting. No, right now I'm trying to surround myself with people who are positive.
Hmm.
But if somebody tells me that I will not make it, it sort of gives me twice as much energy. And I don't have to look for them. You just find them everywhere in society. So it's pretty easy to be energized by these kind of people.
That's a good fuel to have for
Yeah, good
sure.
feel to have. Exactly. Exactly.
So when you look back at your life so far, what are the most important life lessons that you have learned about these kind of accomplishments you talked about money, about status, and about meaning or purpose in life?
Well, there's a lot of things. I will try to give the ones that are most salient. One very important part is about personal development and coaching.
Hmm.
When I was 22, my company at the time was generating some revenue, but I was day in, day out working like crazy for that company. And I had so many things to do, like for tomorrow, no, for yesterday, to be honest. Everything was, and people told me you should take a coach. He or she's going to help you. Um, she's going to allow you to understand things that you're not able to understand by yourself. And all this was blurry for me. It was not clear. And I had so many emergencies and very tangible and concrete things to get done for tonight, that this kind of long-term idea of getting coached, and you don't know exactly what you're going to get out of, and it's going to cost some money, and it was very hard for me to understand how useful it would be. When I started becoming more successful, I took a coach, and by the way, it changed my life. So now, if the 43-year-old me, what my 43-year-old me would tell to my 22 or 3-year-old is to take a coach and to accept to spend that time and that amount of money, because it's going to change my life. I spent a lot of time having sort of bottlenecks that I wasn't aware of in my mind,
Mm.
and limiting beliefs. And I think everything would have been much easier, and I would have been able to go much further had I had a coach at that time.
Yeah, I think the
So
personal
that's
development journey is definitely an interesting one and one that's super important for entrepreneurs specifically. So You already mentioned you spent the first 40 years to build up that wealth and financial independence. So, why did you dedicate the next 40 years to defeating aging? How did you
Yes.
come up with that?
Yeah, so that's about the dynamic of how life changes and how priorities change. Before answering this question, let me tell you a story about how I came to live in Aix-en-Provence. So for me, um, when I when I started my studies in Paris, Paris was like this the center of the world. It was a great city, great opportunities. France is a very centralized country. Everything happens in Paris. So so it was a great place until I discovered Aix-en-Provence, because after I got married and we had our first kid, priorities changed
Hmm.
and we came to Aix-en-Provence. Um, and so please repeat the question. What was your question?
Just why you chose to dedicate the next 40 years to
Yes,
defeating
okay,
aging.
okay, yes. Because priorities changed, exactly. So just as priorities changed between living in Paris and living in Aix-en-Provence, after I sold my company, um, my priorities changed. At that time, I really wanted to earn as much money as possible. But after selling my last startup, I really wondered, does it make sense to earn even more money? What is, if I earn twice as much money, is this going to bring me twice as much happiness as I have right now? And the answer was definitely no. And I started, the more I thought of this, the more it became a no-brainer that how many years I would have to live in good health would be the limiting factor from now on. And little by little, I started getting more and more fascinated about longevity. And I was also very fascinated about how far science has gone. And no
Hmm.
one is talking about this in the mainstream media. And back in 2022, I thought that it was marketing bullshit, that science wasn't that far along. And I spent a year meeting as many people as possible, from researchers, entrepreneurs in longevity. I went to a lot of conferences in longevity, and by the end of the year, I was able to understand that yes, there is some storytelling, there is some marketing around it, but you also have very a credible science backing those kind of statements, bold statements. And there's I think, I don't know exactly who said this, but the best way to predict the future is to create it. I
Hmm.
really feel inspired about this. And I said to myself, okay, so now I can take care of projects, long-term projects, without having this problem of have been perceiving a revenue, because I don't need money anymore. And I could easily spend maybe 5, 10, 15 years taking care of projects that nobody wants to take care of because they're too long term, too uncertain, and too risky. um, and that became a sort of mantra for me and the new purpose of my life.
Hmm.
So having as many years as possible in good health for myself, for the people around me, and for humanity as a whole looks like a very nice and meaningful purpose to have in life. And my kid, who has number one, who is 5 now, can easily understand what I'm doing. This has never happened before.
That's amazing.
With marketing, artificial intelligence, lead generation, stuff like that, it doesn't change the world for the better. But helping people live as long as possible in good health, this is very easy to understand for kids, and it gives a new purpose in life.
I love the way you think about this and how you prioritize projects in your life. It really makes a lot of sense. That said, defeating aging is a really ambitious goal. So, what does your action plan look like? Can you lay out your action plan for us?
Yeah, so back in the last 2 years, when I tried to understand how the longevity ecosystem works and what were the bottlenecks, I ended up understanding that there were two components in this ecosystem. One of them being related to preventative medicine and how they call it health span.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is more moonshot like around biotech and about understanding the processes of aging at the molecular or cellular level and trying to slow them down, stop them, or even reverse them. And those two components are pretty different when we look at the applications and also the business prospects. You have the health span that everyone is more or less able to understand. Governments are coming little by little to understand that it's important because the population is aging, so there's more money in it, and you can more easily have a return on investment that is compatible with what the venture capital is looking for. When you're looking at the other component, which is research and development and the biotech component, it's much harder to have forecasts because it's very risky, it's going to take a lot of time, and in the best case scenario, it's going to be a huge success, but you don't know when this is going to happen. And basically, we can easily imagine how we would have the necessary financial resources to develop the health plan part, the preventative medicine part. But there is very little to no money for the biotech part because governments cannot fund that part because aging is not considered as a disease. And the public funds go to diseases like the chronic diseases, cancer, cardiovascular diseases, neurodegeneratives, and syndromic metabolic syndrome and associated diseases. So you have huge amounts of public money going to sick care, not to healthcare. And this comes from a very tricky definition of what disease is. And aging is not a disease. So you don't have public money and you don't have private money for that kind of biotech research because it's too risky and it's too long term. So again, you have some money for the health span component of the longevity ecosystem, and you have little to no money for the biotech and the lifespan. And my idea was to create or to help as much as possible to the growth of the longevity ecosystem by creating profitable startups in health span and in preventative medicine, and then using the money that comes, the profit that comes from those companies to fund long-term projects in biotech. So the project I have right now, and honestly, yes, it's a moonshot. It's a long-term, very long-term project. I imagine myself working in this project for the next 40 years of my life, is to create a startup studio that is going to create as many profitable startups as possible in longevity and use the profit to fund a foundation, which I have called 2060, because the purpose is to defeat aging by 2060. So the name of the foundation is the 2060 Foundation, to take care of long-term projects such as political and public advocacy, to raise awareness around longevity and what's coming, to change the narrative, because right now longevity in all the movies, in all the novels, the books, everywhere, longevity is considered as a sort of solution for rich people. But reality doesn't have to be like this. And immediately, because of all those movies, normal people are going to think of longevity as being reserved to billionaires. But again, the best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. So we don't have to believe that that is going to happen. It's up to us to change the narrative and to create the future we want to have.
Mm-hmm.
So the foundation, the 2060 Foundation, would take care of those kind of aspects. The reputation the longevity ecosystem has in the whole world, how we fund research and development, how we change laws to be more healthcare friendly and more friendly to research in longevity. And again, I know that cash is king and everything happens with financial resources. I'm not a dreamer. Maybe I'm a dreamer, but I also have my feet well on the ground. And I know that we need financing in order to change things. And this is why the startup studio is important, because this is where the money is going to come from.
I love that. So you use profitable startups to fund research. I like
Absolutely.
it. I like it.
Absolutely.
So,
And even political advocacy, changing laws is very, very difficult. It takes 10 to 15 years. Who
mhm.
is going to take care of projects on the next 10 to 15 years? Now, the Western countries only have short-term projects, which sort of are um, I mean, they have the same length as election terms, like 5 years. Everything
Mhm.
that goes above 5 years, nobody cares about this. And when you think that you need 10 to 15 years to change laws, nobody's going to take care of this. But if we want to be successful in longevity and to defeat aging, you have to change those laws so that a portion of the public funding goes to fundamental research in longevity.
Right. So how can people, like, if someone in the audience, someone who's listening to this today, if they think like, oh, this is so cool, I want to be part of that. How can they become part of your entrepreneur startup um, project?
Yeah. So thank you for your question. One very easy way to do it is to become a member of the 2060 Foundation. It's free. It's just the website is 2060.life, and people can sign up. And then we have regular meetings where we explain to them the projects we're working on, and people have the possibility to devote some of their time to working with us on the projects that are already ongoing or to new ones that speak to them, that resonate with them. And one of the ideas of 2060 is to create a platform where longevity enthusiasts can join and can work on those projects, and create groups of like-minded people who would work on those specific projects. So
Mm.
this is one of the possibilities. Another possibility is, again, a startup studio is a very, very complex animal. I came to understand after seriously working on the project. And one of the key factors of success is to have valuable entrepreneurs who can start those projects and who can take care of them day in, day out. And people who have, like me, created startups and in the tech space, can and are looking for new horizons, new purposes in life, new projects, could find out about longevity and devote their time to those kind of entrepreneurial projects.
That sounds amazing. I will definitely have to have a closer look at that. Now, as a longevity advocate, what do your daily routines look like? What do you do to stay happy, healthy, and productive?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I keep thinking of how to optimize
Yeah.
the whole thing, and it's very important because again, life changes, and and you need to keep yourself updated all the time. Now that being said, I really think that I need to be an example around me to show people how to be balanced and how to take care of their life in order to optimize their longevity.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a huge pressure now because I have started so many projects in parallel around longevity. There's the foundation, and then there's a startup studio, and then we have a first startup called iCare, um, which is a sort of online consultation platform for longevity. So many projects in parallel, and entrepreneurship is taking a lot of time. And from time to time, I feel myself, I feel a lot of pressure, and I have to step back and say, no, 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 this is not the right balance for me. I have to delegate more. I have to reorganize. I have to put some projects in standby mode. I have to focus on other ones. So every week, I do a sort of a weekly feedback, thinking of what happened in the week and was it balanced, was it reasonable, and how I could adjust for the next week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sort of a dynamic that works pretty well for me, to be honest. And I think it's great for people to have that kind of regular sessions, personal sessions, where they think of what they have done during like last month or last week, whatever, last 2 weeks, and they try to adjust for the next cycle.
Yeah, I like that. And I would add that it also helps to look at your, say, diet and exercise the same way. So at the end of the week, you can just
Yes. So yeah. So
impact.
so so that's about the, I would say, the time management. Okay, the
Mhm,
time management and where you put your energy,
mhm,
which is related to your mental health, I would say. So in longevity, you have five pillars of longevity. In order of decreasing importance, you have first one, the most impactful, is physical activity.
mhm.
Then you have diet.
Yep.
Then you have sleep. Then you have mental health. And then last, in terms of impactfulness, is supplements and drugs. Most people put this in first place, but it's not the right way to see things. And as you can see, the first two ones are also the ones that are most difficult to put into practice, to move and to practice regular physical activity, and also to eat well. Um, so I have a medical doctor. As a matter of fact, I had two medical doctors, one in France and one in the United States, who takes care of my long term health. Every 6 months, I do blood test labs
Mhm.
to see my biomarkers, and I have found very really fascinating stuff about my body since I have been doing this, and it allowed me to understand what was lurking in the dark when it comes to myself, were my weak points, and how I could aggressively prevent disease from coming at the right time when it's below the radar and you don't have any symptoms, but things are still happening. And when you feel pain or you feel symptoms, it's already too late. So I
Mm.
was fortunate enough to find out about all these things way before symptoms started to appear.
Oh, that's good. That's amazing. And what does your diet and your exercise routine look like?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you about this, but before answering this question, I think it's very important for your audience to understand that my diet and my conclusions are not going to be the ones for them, and most likely they will not be optimized. So
Mhm.
there's no one size fits all solution, and they really need to understand that just as there is no magical recipe for investment, you have to take two investors, they are going to have different strategies. Uh, there's no magic recipe for longevity. And so it's very important to understand this personalization of the diet and lifestyle and everything that comes with it. So when it comes to myself, I have discovered that I was pre-diabetic,
Hmm.
which means that the level of the glucose levels are above what is considered as normal. And what happens is that between 5 to 10 years after you become pre-diabetic, you become diabetic, you get type 2 diabetes if you don't change your lifestyle. So I was fortunate enough to discover that I was pre-diabetic way before it would have become I would become type 2 diabetic. So as a consequence, I stopped eating sugar completely. Now I eat my only meals that have less than 10% of carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
So no more rice, no more. There's a lot of food categories that I'm not eating anymore.
No, that must be tough.
It's not so tough, to be honest, for me at least.
Okay.
Um, from time to time, when I'm traveling, so I don't travel very much, but when I travel, I just don't take those rules into account. So because it's too hard, and
Mhm.
I don't want to think of this. But what is really important is the habits you have and what happens at home if you spend most of your time at home. So it's not that hard, to be honest. It's even pretty easy for me. Yes, I had some hard times during evenings not eating chocolate, and I have failed 2 or 3 times, but quickly enough, this started to be very easy for me to execute. So that's another thing. I have changed my physical activity pattern. Now I'm working more um, in the direction of increasing my muscle mass,
Mhm.
because increasing the muscle mass also improves
Yeah.
the glucose management profile for your body. Um, and I eat foods in a specific order: first fibers, then proteins and fats, and then eventually in very limited amount, like a fruit or some carbohydrates. Most of the time, it's fruit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I eat so much fruit. It would be really hard for me to cut out the fruit.
Yeah, but again, maybe you're not in my situation, and
Yeah, that's
most
right.
likely you're not, because in Europe, in the United States, it's crazy. There's more than 30% of pre-diabetic people
Wow.
who are going to become type 2 diabetes, are going to have type 2 diabetes in 5 to 10 years. In Europe, you have like 15 or 20%. Numbers are not very clear because since it's completely asymptomatic, people don't know they
Mm.
have it. But it's just an evaluation. So there's 80% of people who are healthy. So from a statistical point of view, you have more odds to be healthy than to have this. So
Hey.
maybe it doesn't concern you, and good for you. Um, so yeah, what I have also discovered. So all my life, I have been uh, um, used to this um, work hard, play hard mantra. So I was sleeping very little. I was overtraining, um, and I've done an interesting test, which is called glycanage, which
Mhm.
gives you the overall inflammation of your body. And my inflammation was equivalent to a 72-year-old
Ooh.
man. So it was like hugely surprising for me, but at the same time, it made sense because I was so stressed out, and I was so sleeping so little, and I was pushing myself so hard that soon enough I would have had chronic problems. And what I changed is I bought this smartwatch,
Mhm.
which gives me the heart rate variability.
Yeah.
So when it goes down, I stop training, or I train in a more soft way. Um, I also measure my sleep. So now I'm at that time, 2 years ago, I was at like 5 hours of sleep per night on average. Now I'm
Mm.
at 7, and it completely changed my life. Um, I had I had dandruff since I was a kid, and and socially it was disturbing for me, and I tried to see so many doctors and nobody gave me a solution. They told me to buy all sorts of expensive products. None of them worked. And when I started managing my stress and sleeping more and having a more balanced life, everything disappeared. It was crazy.
Mm. And I mean, sleep also impacts your glucose metabolism.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So important. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today before we wrap up?
No, I really maybe what I think is very important for people, whatever if they need to be entrepreneurs or not, is just to start their personal development journey as early as possible and to help their kids know themselves and really think of what is important for them. Because society as it is today is promoting some images, some archetypes of success, but for most people, those archetypes are not adapted. And I think it comes from I don't know where it comes from, but how you can get some independence and to get out of those kind of archetypes is by thinking of what is important for you and creating a sort of dynamic where you spend some time thinking about those topics on a regular basis, daily or weekly or monthly or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Thank you so much for sharing. So last but
Thank you
not
very
least,
much, Claudia.
where can our listeners find you if they would like to connect with you or learn more from you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. I have a very straightforward email address, gabriel.cian and digit 2 at gmail.com. But again, the easiest I think is to find me on LinkedIn. I'm really active out there and we'll be able to answer their messages in real time.
Awesome. Gabriel, thank you so much for talking today. It's been a pleasure having you on this show.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Have a great day.
You too.
And a
Take
great
care
week. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
and talk soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. That's a fantastic, easy, and zero-cost way to help the show grow. Just use the link in the show notes and make my day. Want more? For quick, actionable tips and insights to guided meditations and a side of biohacking, join my inner circle and get access to exclusive subscriber-only content. Again, just use the link in the show notes to join the tribe. Thank you for your support and see you on the other side. Take care and talk soon. Bye.